Hi, my name is Jacob Collins Brown, and this is UKBF Stories, where we are telling the story of small businesses across the UK and shining a spotlight on their journey.
Hi again, I'm Richard Osborne from UK Business Forums, and today I'm talking to Matt Fountain, the founder and managing director of Bewiched Coffee. Hi Matt.
How you doing?
Very well, and thank you for joining us here. I'm a fan of Bewiched. I think the business is fantastic, and those who follow UK Business Forums already and have seen some of our social posts would have picked up where a few weeks ago, or probably a month ago, I was driving past your Moulton Park location and had a conversation about Dragon's Den and moving into a challenging field. We'll cover some of that as we sort of talk a little bit later, but just to kick us off, tell us what Bewiched Coffee is.
Bewiched Coffee, effectively, so we started 11 years ago as a singular site, and we've evolved now into a business where we're looking to disrupt the market to a certain extent, certainly locally and regionally.
Yeah, and with Bewiched, when you say disrupt a market, there's some big players. This is coffee shops effectively, and there's some big players in that market, so quite no small feat, I'd imagine.
It's not a small feat, but equally it's not like we're setting up a 7,500 square foot convenience store that, you know, you're talking about 1,500 square foot spaces, and effectively we're looking to differentiate ourselves more so on service as much as anything, and then obviously closely followed by product and cleanliness.
Okay, that's great. Now if we look at how you started and sort of take the journey back. So you and your partner, I believe, went to Moulton College. So you're local to this area, is that right?
Yeah, so it's actually one of my best friends, Richard, who came into the business at the start with me. We both went to Moulton School. Yeah. I think I came out of Moulton School when I was probably 15. I went to a school in Wellingborough, but I was there for the majority of my education.
Which makes sense, sort of being in this area. And so where did you go from Moulton when you left that school there? Sort of, where did your career start?
So it was after I left university. I'd qualified in a degree that kind of qualified me for nothing, to keep my options open, but I didn't have any particular relevant work experience, so attended loads of interviews, sent off hundreds of CVs, got very little back, and effectively fell into hospitality in pizza. A friend got me a job working as a waiter in Milton Keynes, and that journey kind of cracked on from there, really.
Yes, so starting in Pizza Hut, how did that, how long was you there and how did that progress then? What roles do you have within Pizza Hut?
So yeah, started as a waiter, then pretty much got demoted to the kitchen and pot wash, and really from there I think I had a couple of moments where I thought hospitality wasn't for me, so I tried, I remember working for David Lloyd and went to work for HSBC, but I ended up coming back to hospitality and Pizza Hut because I loved the buzz of working in a hospitality business. I think I probably went back into Pizza Hut when I was 27, again as a waiter, but just knuckled down to effectively, right, I want to become a store manager, and then once I became a store manager, I want to become an area manager, and that's probably where I started to hit a glass ceiling in the corporate world, to be honest.
So what I suppose during that journey, especially when you was sort of moving from store manager, area manager, that must have been educational as well, though.
Yeah, very much so, because I think obviously there's a load of steps between store manager and area manager and various hoops to go through within the corporate environment. But equally, when you work in one site and influencing people versus working in multiple sites and trying to remotely influence people, that's really helped me expand our business from one site without a shadow of a doubt. And without that experience, I think I'd really have struggled, to be honest.
So there's a Pizza Hut themselves, they operate a franchise model, if I understand it correctly. And there's a reason I'm asking this, which we can cover later when we talk more about Bewiched itself and your journey there. But whilst working in that environment and working through that model, did that sort of give you any insight or ideas behind franchising?
It did. I mean, Pizza, they were very much focused in that period of time on franchising their delivery business, but their delivery arm was much more successful than their full restaurant division. So yeah, it certainly gave me an inkling that was a good way to expand the business.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you mentioned come 2009, that's when your career at Pizza Hut ended. What happened there?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. I was performance managed for 18 months. The whole market had changed. It had gone from a business that was double-digit growth every year to really struggling in a new, exploding casual dining market. I remember having a performance review and effectively saying, they said to me, what are your plans? What do you want to achieve this year? I said, I wanted to start looking at opening my own business potentially. And I think really as soon as that was documented, I think my days were numbered. But I was very heavily performance managed for about 18 months, where I could not do right from I just couldn't do anything right effectively. Even if I got the results that they wanted me to get, it was very much the conversation was around how are you getting these results? We don't think that they're being produced in the right way. I then got called down to a meeting with my boss at head office, and walked into an office with what was effectively one of his bosses, to be told that I was being made redundant. So it was a shock. But as I sat there in that meeting, to be honest, I was just trying to keep a smile off my face, because I had my business plan done. Although in hindsight, there were loads of I's to dot and T's to cross. The foundation of the business was there, and I knew I was going to get a payout of some description. And it was money that, I was trying to save money at that point in time to start a business. So knowing that I was going to get some kind of injection was quite exciting.
So you'd already, at that point, you just mentioned you'd started writing a business plan for what was to become Bewiched. So the same model?
It was exactly that, yeah. I've been going to some night classes that weren't particularly useful, but they did give me some ideas, and then obviously reading books. But yeah, the business plan was broadly finished. At that point in time, Costa were clearly a growth business, and actually I declined an area manager's job with Costa 2 years prior to being made redundant, and actually that then just predated me then being performance managed heavily. So I could see obviously Costa growing, but actually my original business model was much more heavily focused around sandwiches, hence why the name has no T in it.
Okay. I did wonder that. I wasn't sure if that was like any sort of like copyright issues around the TV program or anything like that.
No. So it's purely there's a brand in the States called Witchcraft with no T in, which I'd experienced a couple of times, almost like a Subway, but just way better. There's a brand in the UK called Philpotts, who I admired. This is 10, 11 years ago. Again, made to order sandwiches and baps and things, bits and bobs, but really, really good quality product. So as the business plan started to come together, obviously I could see the coffee market was starting to explode. So obviously, the final business plan was great made to order sandwiches and great coffee under one roof. And I think at that point in time, my business plan referenced businesses like Oliver Adams. That was a huge business in Northamptonshire at that point in time. They were kind of doing, if not made to order sandwiches, I think they were doing to a certain extent, but certainly fresh sandwiches. And then Costa were doing, coffee, great coffee at that point in time. So if you're in Northampton Town Centre, for instance, and you wanted a great coffee and a great sandwich, you'd have to go to Costa and go to Oliver Adams.
And when looking about the production, writing that business plan, you just mentioned you went to some evening classes and doing, studying, learning along that with that. Did you write the business plan yourself? Did you have, whether it be a consultant or somebody else helping you pull that together? How did the creation of that plan come about?
Yeah, from memory, I think I got a template offline, and then I just kind of went about filling in the various elements. My dad, I think, gave me some advice. He was a previous bank manager, so just in terms of the type of thing, the granular detail the banks would be looking for. But yeah, it was pretty much put together by myself, to be honest, and quite in some terms quite a laborious thing to do. Obviously, extremely useful, and actually, I think the most useful part of it was analysing the local market. So no, because the first site was originally going to be in Northampton. You know, there wasn't a coffee shop or a sandwich shop in Northampton that I hadn't been into, and given some real kind of market research to.
Okay, you've kind of answered one of my next questions. Really, is how useful it was. Do you still reference that business plan, or has it evolved? Do you maintain the business plan currently at the moment?
No, it's evolved entirely, to be honest, and because the original site was in Northampton, so it was actually on St Giles Street in Northampton, and it fell. I pulled out of it right at the last minute to take a site in Wellingborough, which was we're no longer there anymore. It's now trading as a coffee shop again. Lovely site on Church Street, but that was delayed by 10 months because it was being refurbished by the council. So that 10 months, I then went and got a job in a coffee shop, and in quite a busy garden centre restaurant, a very well known one, Beckworth's Emporium. And that's when my learning really began on top of the business plan, actually seeing which things worked in commercial hospitality environments that weren't Pizza Hut.
I find that fascinating. You just mentioned there, sort of picking up on that during your business planning stage, you got a job working in an organisation to learn more about that industry. Just sort of, I'm putting words in your mouth there, but is that exactly as it come together? Was it to learn, or was it because you needed the income at that point? Literally, how was it?
It was both. Yeah, it was absolutely both. Yeah, all the redundancy money had gone into Bewiched at that point. So yeah, to pay the mortgage, I needed two jobs, to be honest. I think I'd got a friend that got me a bar job as well. But yeah, the learning in the coffee shop side of things, especially Beckworths, was really useful for different things. And actually, the owners at Beckworths, when I kind of held my hands up and said I'm actually looking to start my own business, were very fair with how they dealt with me. But the coffee shop learning was really, really key.
Yeah, that's really good, and something which, for me, on the outside and just generally sort of comments for anybody watching this, is you can't get better learning about your industry or the industry you're looking to launch in than actually to be in it, or if you haven't already grown up working that industry, to get some time there. You were made redundant, obviously, from Pizza Hut, as you just mentioned. And that you was already writing a business plan, you was putting savings to one side, and the redundancy money gave a boost. And you just mentioned that literally all your redundancy money had gone into Bewiched. That's an all-in commitment. I'm aware you have a young family at the moment. I don't know what during, in 2010 when this was happening, whether you had a young family at that point in time. You didn't? No. So that may have made the decision perhaps possibly a little easier. But that must have been a scary time to literally take this redundancy and go all in on a dream, an aspiration of what you wanted to do.
It was, and I remember, again, because I knew my days were numbered at Pizza Hut, I was already having interviews alongside writing my business plan with other businesses. And I actually had an assessment centre with a large pub group 2 days after I got made redundant. And I walked out of that telling my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I've definitely got that job. And I didn't get the job. because I don't think what I've always been very comfortable with is I'm not a salesman, and I never will be. And my potential boss wanted me to kind of espouse to him why I wanted to work for them, and I'd done a tour with one of their area managers around their estate, and to be honest, it wasn't for me, and I just couldn't sell the fact that why I wanted to work for them. So I think that's the main reason I didn't get that role. Had I got that role, it was a good salary, and it may have delayed things happening. But the reality is I didn't get that role, so I was almost forced then to take that leap.
At that time, you may feel differently now, but at that time, would you have preferred to have that job there and have that secure income, or punt your redundancy on a new business?
Yes, it's difficult to say, to be honest with you. I think the reality is how it all panned out is when you haven't got that safety net, then you like I say, you're pretty much forced down the route that you want to go down, but obviously there's an unknown quantity at the end of that route. Whereas a safe corporate job, you kind of know what you're getting.
The quoting Dragon's Den again, you see situations where people will go on looking for investment in their business, and they've always got that safety net, that almost like their new venture is the side hustle and their main business is the job they do to give them that secure income. Would you feel having that safety net taken away gave you the focus to just focus on Bewiched?
Definitely, yeah. And I had a meeting with somebody quite recently and everyone's obviously on an individual journey and they're forced to do different things, do things differently, but they were kind of doing that where they had a role and then they've got a business that they're trying to run, and I don't know how they're doing that, to be honest. I think personally for me, I couldn't have got the business where it is now without being 100% focused on the business.
So you opened your first coffee shop, your first Bewiched in Wellingborough in 2010. The next 10 years were quite a journey, I'd imagine. I remember reading a particular comment you gave, and I saw an article in the newspaper about the launch of the first drive-through, which I'd love to come back to as a concept in itself. But you used the terms feeling inadequate as a father, husband, leader, and founder. That's a difficult emotion to deal with when so many things are happening and you're having to commit to so many parts. And you made this comment 10 years-ish after opening the first Bewiched. So tell me a bit about those 10 years. What was going on in that journey, and what was happening within yourself, within your own business and within Bewiched?
Yeah, well, you're trying to form a path where you're balancing running one site where you've got control. I remember on site one at one point, I wouldn't let anyone else make a coffee for a couple of weeks because I had this whole control freak element around. I was the only one that could produce a decent coffee on the coffee machine. You then go to two sites, and obviously I can't part that only me making the coffee long before that anyway. But you go to two sites and realise, right, well, you've got somebody. So Richard was running site one, I took on site two in Kettering. But you've got different problems because you've not got eyes on site one, so you're kind of making some assumptions about what's happening there, and they may or may not have been happening. And then to get to site three, I think what you've got to do is you've got to trust other people with the keys to your business and the keys to your values and how you want to present your business to the world. And I think that's one of the main challenges in scaling an independent business.
Just touching on Kettering, I saw a great post on social media about the opening of Kettering and then literally massive opening of another brand directly opposite. And I don't want to put words in your mouth because I thought that was a fantastic story. Please tell us about.
Yeah, so we opened Kettering 3 weeks before what was effectively the second Costa in Kettering. It's now the only Costa because the other one's closed during lockdown. But we'd got off to a decent start. We knew we'd actually hurt the original Costa because they were telling us that. We then watched the refit happen very quickly on the site opposite us, and literally you could kind of get a laser from our till, and as it happened, not through planning, but shine it straight through and to their till. So you're looking at them, and vice versa. All
Like literally that close.
Yeah,
I've seen the photo, but for anybody who's not, they're right next to each other.
They are. So there's full visibility on how you're trading or not. The franchisee at that point in time, what he tended to do was have like a pre-opening shindig where I think they invited loads of team from other sites and family and friends. So it was 5 o'clock on a Wednesday evening. I know this because I play football on Wednesdays, and they were full in their nice shiny new store, and I was on the close by myself, and from 5 o'clock onwards till 7 I didn't see another customer. So obviously I busied myself cleaning things that didn't need cleaning, and sweeping floors that didn't, basically doing anything to look busy, but feeling like the entirety of probably about 80 people in there were kind of staring at me, and obviously in that moment you kind of start to think, well, what are they thinking, and possibly thinking, what on earth why would you open next to Costa? I was then on the open the following morning, so I got in at 7 o'clock. They were already open. They already had customers in for takeaways and bits and bobs. I then went to open our store at 7:30 and didn't see a customer until 5 to 10. And I think there was quite a few other examples of that during the journey at Kettering, because it's probably 18 months really for a new coffee shop to hit revenue that isn't a major brand. But that's the one that resonates the most, because I kind of went into panic mode, to be honest. So I didn't see a customer for in total for about 4 hours, and you start to think, actually, I've really messed up here. I started to think about, I went to Australia when I left uni. I started to think about perhaps heading back to Australia. I was kind of staring defeat and failure in the face, really.
And how long after opening your first store in Wellingborough was the Kettering store?
So it's 2012 Kettering.
So a couple of years after. And just to remind those watching, you literally ploughed all of your redundancy and all of your money into this. You mentioned 18 months for a store to start to turn revenue. That's a long period of time to manage on what's effectively savings. How long was it during that journey from that Costa open, having a few hours of just cleaning cups continuously and looking at, was it before the Kettering store started to pick up and things started to feel safer, I suppose?
It was 18 months. It literally took 18 months. Yeah. But we'd got off to a good start in Kettering. And actually, I remember once we had that first customer come through at 5 to 10 on the Thursday morning, we then we didn't have a great day, but we ticked over. We had a reasonable day. But it was very much alert, because I think we've either put 5 or 6 next to Costa to date. And I now know what the journey is. And I've witnessed it firsthand, that I kind of call them blip days, and you'll get this with any new store opening, certainly in our experience, where you'll get a day that is extremely quiet and you can't actually put your finger on why that was. Reality is, in a coffee shop, 50% of your customers are regular customers. If you don't have a regular customer base, it doesn't matter how nice the shop looks, how shiny it is, how great the service, the product is, how clean it is. If it's next to a major brand and that brand is full with a queue and you're empty, very few people are going to set foot in your shop. They will go with a safe bet and they'll set foot, obviously they'll go to Costa.
I can resonate with that. When you look at, I'm talking metaphorically, so not so much you personally yourself, but you'd look at brands like Starbucks, international brand. You look at Costa, big international brand, sort of corporate side. Looking at how you run Bewiched, it is a family business in every sense. You've been very hands-on in sort of building that up, and looking at I've seen a comment where you've sort of will get up. We're sort of moving into the stage where your children are born, so you have babies, you have a young family, and you're getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning, baby's crying, and you'll do what any small business owner will do whilst you're awake. You'll look at your phone. I know you've got stories about that. What are the emotions you go through when you're doing those things, and what impact does that have on even your mental health, your well-being of yourself when you find yourself doing that, but what other choice do you have?
Yeah, so I think the one you're referencing there is, I think I'd said, so quite often if it was my turn to go and get one of the kids, if they've woken up, you check your phone, see what the time is. You've got notifications on Google Business and someone's left a 1-star review. Whether they've left it and it's a lot, I've never been able to work out whether you get that live or it comes to you a couple of hours later. But yeah, obviously it changes your mood immediately to frustration as to, particularly when, I mean, even now, when we get poor reviews through, I don't think there's anything that frustrates me more in our business, particularly when they reference, poor service. And it's just trying to deal with those emotions in a rational way. And I think I've probably learned to do that over the course of, the last 10 years or so.
But during those times, that's a journey you go through where you go through that, I'd say, learning experience really of dealing with that. But I can only, I imagine, I've been there. When it's yours and you're building up this business and you're all in, as referenced earlier. It's not the business, it's you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's funny because if friends or family or former colleagues go into any of our businesses and they see something that they don't think's right, they will immediately be questioning to themselves, why is it accepting that? And the reality is, you as a business owner, you're probably not accepting that, but because we've got 150 people that work for us now, it is a constant challenge to get them all on the same page, particularly in a business where there's going to be a reasonable level of turnover, as there is in any hospitality business.
Yeah, and how do you manage that then? Then if you've got 150 people, you have your own values, you have your own way in which when people look at Bewiched, you want them to feel something. I suppose actually a fair question would be, what do you want them to feel? And then how do you get that down through your team of 150 people?
Yeah, so I think we want them to feel welcome, and then we want them to feel appreciated when they've been to us, and we think that's what the larger corporates really struggle with. And I think to get that message across, certainly in this day and age with Gen Z, you've got to try and do it every which way you can. We use Slack, which is quite a popular business communication system, so that's part of it. That's a big part of it, actually, our communication cycle with our team. And I think it's just sending out this consistent messages to them on a daily and sometimes hourly basis to try and keep that focus up there.
So following that up, you mentioned Gen Z, and this generation, the young generation, they have different aspirations. They have a different way of working, an approach to work to what I started my working career in 1990, so things were very different then to how they are now. When dealing with them, you mentioned Slack, you mentioned instant messaging. How do you measure the take up? How do you measure their engagement with the brand, their engagement with the values that you want, what you want people to think of when they think of Bewiched?
I think we measure it through things like business reviews, and most of the time when people review our business, they'll reference service first, be that in a positive or negative manner. I think then, when you do observations, you're seeing if people are connected. And I think someone said to me recently, the best question to ask yourself is, do they care? And I think that really kind of boiled it down for me, because sometimes you can actually very clearly see, both in our business and other businesses, that perhaps people don't care, and obviously that can have horrific damage on your business if that's the case. So I think it's trying to deal with, when that becomes apparent, trying to deal with that as quickly as possible.
And looking at evolution and moving on, you moved into roasting your own coffee.
We're going to be roasting our own coffee by the end of Q2. It's been quite a long journey. The machine was manufactured in South Africa, and when they had their big spike with COVID down there, it delayed the machine coming over, but we've got the machine now, hoping to get it all up and running by the end of Q2. It's an electric roaster, so it's quite a good story for us to tell our customers, because there's far less emissions, and there's obviously a carbon footprint saving by roasting it electrically as opposed to with gas. And yeah, we're just in the process of we've got some samples this week actually of green beans from some very small batch farms in Ecuador. So it'll be a great coffee. And what we're going to do is we're going to sit that as a guest blend alongside our existing blend, which is roasted in Market Harborough.
In an old railway shed.
It is, yeah. It is indeed, yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. It's a lovely spot.
Grand opening?
There will be a grand opening, absolutely, yeah.
Look out for my invite. I've touched on franchising a few times, and the franchise business model is something which has some really strong, really good businesses, good sort of processes within there for people, especially in a nutshell. You're buying into a tried and tested model, and just looking from the outside, the journey you're going through with Bewiched, looks like it's following that you're trialing, you're testing, you're measuring before taking the leap into a sort of franchising the model. On the flip side, as we see within UK business forums, there are some less than strong franchise models, if I use that term, where you're going to be struggled to make a return on that. So it's a model where I would turn around to people and say, what are you buying when you're buying a franchise? There's two really sort of questions here. One really is, was it always in the roadmap, always in the business plan? So from the very moment you opened up the first Bewiched in Wellingborough, was the plan always to go multi-site, expand, move towards trial and testing, and then move into franchise? So that's sort of one part of the question. And then, whichever answer there, why the franchise model for Bewiched?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was never part of the plan. To be honest, I wouldn't say it was not there in the periphery somewhere, possibly. What I have seen is a lot of coffee operators in the franchise sector franchise very quickly. So from kind of 1 to 2 sites, then franchise. What we've done is probably the reverse, where I've been quite reluctant to franchise the business, and again, it might boil back a little bit to trust us, I suppose. But equally, when you look at the most successful franchise businesses, McDonald's being one, processes, systems have got to be absolutely nailed on. There can't be any grey areas. We're very confident now. We've got some of the best processes certainly for a business our size, we're using automation. We'd like to think quite cleverly in the business, so we've got about kind of 4,000 automations a month that go on, things like Slack, for instance. And I think the interesting thing for us is that the franchise deal that we've just signed with the Heart of England Co-op, we're confident that they've got the capability and the ambition to deliver our business on a bigger scale to a bigger audience, but still retain our ethos.
And why franchising as a route?
I think obviously it's a way to expand your business without burning your own cash flow. Is the simple question, simple response. But it's I think it's just to get us to a bigger audience as much as anything. Having said that, a lot of the conversations I have in the franchise community, the first question you tend to get asked is, how many are you going to open next year? And I think for me, it's never been about numbers. It's all about quality. And actually, the agreement with the co-op, I kind of reined back what they were potentially planning to do, because again, even with those guys who I trust implicitly, I think it's all about doing it properly.
And I've sort of picked up with some of the comments you've mentioned whilst we've been talking is, the quality, attention to detail being my words I put into there. It must be quite a difficult journey for you personally to go through, looking at that model and looking at when they're your staff and they're people that work within your organisation directly. It's easier to have an element of control and oversight as to what people are doing. When you move into franchise and then you've potentially got other companies running your brand, as somebody who has a passion for making sure that things are right and things are reflective of what you want the brand to reflect, that must be a difficult journey.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's one we're yet to embark on, really. I think the first franchise unit will open in September. I think, and it's up to us to give them the tools to deliver the business as we see it, and then obviously they'll be effectively audited by us. But yeah, I'm very confident. I think if you can garner the right franchise partners, then it clearly is a route to expand your business successfully.
I'm picking up on that. They say it's less about getting the numbers, the openings, bang bang, one to other, but yeah, picking the right numbers from that. As you sort of move through and the business is growing, how are you finding balancing your time, or what techniques do you have, or are you not able to? Are you still finding it difficult to balance that family, your personal time, and being the managing director of a growing business that's continuing to evolve and continuing to grow, and as you say, looking at these expansion plans? How are you juggling that?
So yeah, it's not dissimilar to when we kind of got to site 4, 5. It was clear we needed an area manager of sorts. So I think it's trying to bolt roles in as you expand, and quite often my experience has been that those roles have been bolted in 6 months, 12 months too late. So with this next phase, I think we're effectively going to nearly double our senior team over the next 6 months. I think that's part of the coping strategy.
Yeah, is it working?
Well, they haven't started yet.
Right.
But I think it will increase direct reports to me, and I think that's definitely something that needs to be resolved. I think if you go above 8 direct reports, you're effectively going to struggle. I've mentioned automation a few times. That helps us loads. So
at this moment in time, as we're sat here, the second tier management isn't there yet. So you're, if I may say, sort of doing the juggling and sort of managing that at the moment, and you're bringing people in. So how is the sort of, to pick up on that, do you have a way of managing that and looking after yourself during this current time before these people come in?
Yeah, I mean, so we've got a structure with myself, my wife who does a couple of days a week, and then I've got so I've got Richard and Michael who work full time above store in the business. So to be fair, in the last 12 months, we've got ourselves really well organised, really well structured in terms of who's responsible for what. The reality is we still all have too many responsibilities, hence why we're looking to add into the senior team. To be honest, it's to segment out certain elements that Richard and Michael are doing to pass over to these new guys.
And if I picked up what you said a moment correctly, you're bringing these people in now before it's 6 months too late.
Exactly, yeah. Because in theory, in practice, that the first franchise will open in September. I don't anticipate any more franchises this year, but then next year there could be, certainly I think the most stores we've opened in a year is 2. That will certainly be beaten next year. So it's just making sure we've got the infrastructure in place to deal with that.
So as we sit here now, how many stores are open?
So we've got 13 currently.
Yeah, so that's a reasonable growth. That's a good number. And they're all around Northamptonshire, is that right at the moment?
Yeah, 9 in Northamptonshire, 2 in Cambridgeshire, and then 1 in Rugby.
Yeah, so gradually domination on the plan for the UK.
We'll see. I think, for us, I think it's so the Heart of England, for instance, their territory is kind of more West Midlands. And as I say, I think it's seeing what opportunities come our way. Obviously, very keen to get some more drive-through businesses open. So that's where a lot of our focus is currently.
And sort of wrapping up, there's a particular store that there was a lot of publicity about, and that was the one in Moulton Park, which was the first purpose-built drive-through store. Is that right? So
there's a soundbite singing along the lines of the first independent purpose-built drive-through coffee shop in the UK and Europe. It's something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, that's been my local, funny enough. So what made you decide to try that?
Again, looking at the market, seeing what the big, you look at Costa and Starbucks in particular and their new opening strategy. Effectively, it's not all drive-throughs, but it's very largely weighted towards drive-throughs. I think Starbucks have currently got 275, Costa have got 270. So it was just trying to get into that market. I've been trying to do that since as early as 2014, to be honest. Yeah. But to get a drive-through built, you're going to have to get a developer to knock one up for you, and you're going to have a strength of covenant for them to satisfy either their investors or if they're forward selling the site or whatever it might be. So I think that's what we're quite proud of, to be honest with you, is that we had the strength of covenant to get that one over the line at Moulton Park.
And at that point, from the press release I saw there, and as you allude to, you'd got, because I'm seeing in my mind a journey here from 2010 where you've put your redundancy, your savings into starting Bewiched, to a point where you're able to have that financial strength to open that store without, or at least get it built, shall I say. I don't know the ins and outs, but to have a developer have that confidence to put that into action without raising external finance. Was that right?
It is, yeah. So for us, from 2014, so store number 4 onwards, we've taken no debt into the business to open new stores. So yeah, everything you see in Moulton Park we own. We don't lease anything. And although there's an initial, obviously, cash outlay to do that, you're then, you're not overpaying for bits of equipment over a 3-year term. So profitability wise, it works much better as a model for us. And
how do you feel you achieved that, or what is the secret in that sense? Because from the outside, it sounds like almost impossible to actually achieve this level of growth without external finance, but you've achieved it. And well, could you, was it I feel it perhaps was a conscious decision, but why not bring in external finance and expedite that growth?
In terms of what, private equity?
In any way, whether it could be a bank loan finance, asset finance, or whether private equity. It's when you look at businesses that follow a model similar to yours, where you are going out on that expansion plan, the most common route would be to go and get financing to expedite that. But you didn't. You're achieving growth, which is fantastic. And as you say, it's a proud moment to get a developer to invest into building privately owned drive-through venue, and you're in a strong financial position to back that.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think, when I think back to Kettering in 2012, when I had, quite a few sleepless nights over the whole how the business was performing, and there was obviously some kit in there that had been asset financed, there was a bank loan, and you can see it kind of soaking up your profits. So as soon as we were at a point, as I say, with store 4 or 5 in 2014, where we didn't have to outlay, then it just gives you that control back. And, obviously for everybody, when, March 2020 clicked around and, where everyone was closing, including us, our businesses, it was nice to know that, we could actually commit to our team and say, look, we're going to fulfill payroll this month. We didn't know about furlough at that point. It enables you to sleep at night, which is, I think, the most important thing.
It was the decision of not wanting to have that debt that drove that decision.
Definitely, yeah. Because, that debt, as I say, it's just, it hangs over you in so many ways. And I've seen quite a few, again, in our sector, be them locally or nationally, where they've leveraged a lot of debt to expand their business. And personally, that's not the route I would prefer to take.
And nobody can argue with that. I think it's as I said earlier, I'm a fan of Bewiched. I'm a fan of your business. I would personally say the coffees there are better than Costa, and the food quality is really good. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Last question before we wrap up for today. Thank you. You've grown a privately owned business that's done really well, and you continue to grow and continue to expand that on, as we've just spoken about. There comes a time with all of us where our existence, in whichever form we are now, comes to an end. What would you like to be remembered for?
That's a good question. I think just building a business and trying to build a business in the right way. If we're talking obviously purely about business, yeah.
It can be business, it can be personally, or a combination of the both.
I guess part of what I've tried to achieve, and it's quite fortunate in the coffee sector because we're not open late at night, by the drive-through, to be fair, at 9 o'clock, but we're not closing businesses at 12 o'clock at night, is achieving success in business and in my personal life. It's
really great to see. Great talking to you. Thank you for sharing the story. And thank you for watching. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please do ask any questions below. I'm sure I'll be able to forward them on to Matt. Hit that subscribe, and across the other channels, follow, subscribe. That would be fantastic. And I'll share more stories with you over the coming weeks.
Thank you for listening. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to help spread the stories of small businesses across the UK. Have you got a story to share? Reach out to us on ukbf.co.uk. And you never know, you could be the next UKBF story.